Alright, 40 years later, we're about to get hydrogen.
Hi everybody, this will be the first one take or portion of a one take filmed at a gas station. Because if you were filling up with gas, you'd already be home. You know, you'd been home hours ago.
Pretty soon we get ready to go home and we're going to do the Smoking Tire podcast. Are those still a thing?
Good morning everyone, and welcome to a car that I'm conflicted about. If any of you listen to the Smoking Tire podcast, has its own YouTube channel available on all podcast networks, you'll have heard the story of this car and the tale of my trip. And if you haven't listened to that show, I took this car on a little adventure and I learned a lot. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. This is a 2020 Hyundai Nexo. It's the only SUV that's powered by hydrogen. It's a hydrogen fuel cell car. The competitors in this space are the Honda Clarity and the Toyota Mirai. We've tested the Mirai, which you may have seen. If you haven't, go watch that video now. And after that, I was like, oh, well, this is an interesting technology. It's an interesting powertrain, and I'd like to see what else is out there. So Hyundai has also been one of the strongest proponents and developers of hydrogen fuel cell technology. Honda, Toyota, and Hyundai, and Chevy a little bit, have all put a lot of money into developing fuel cells, building cars and trucks. Hyundai's building large semi-trucks for commercial use, and also supporting the infrastructure that is required for a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle. So what a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle is instead of burning gasoline to move pistons or burning hydrogen to move pistons, this converts compressed hydrogen through a process that extracts the electrons from it, sends those electrons to a battery, which powers an electric motor. So this is a single-speed transmission. It has a 95 kilowatt fuel cell stack with a 40 kilowatt hour battery pack. It makes the equivalent of 161 horsepower and 291 pound-feet of torque. It's very torquey. It's not fast. 0 to 60, 8.5 seconds. This has the most torque of the three cars that are powered by hydrogen or that are hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, but it's still quite slow. It is front-wheel drive only through a single-speed transmission, weighs just over 4,000 pounds. It's a little quicker than the Mirai, but it's slower than pretty much everything else. Does that matter when you're driving it around town, commuting in it, etc.? Not really. I only noticed the speed when I was trying to pass someone on the highway, and even then, it was fine. You know, the power is immediate. There are only two trim levels of the Nexo available. You get the base one or you get the Limited. This is the Limited. It's about $3,400 more, and it comes with a lot of stuff. You get the vented seats, blind spot monitoring, the 360 cameras, lane keep assist, sunroof, remote park, a better sound system, and the hands-free hatch. All of that is really convenient. And when a car that's already starting at about $59,000, in my opinion, you might as well spend another $3,000 and get cooled seats, which are so amazing and so helpful. Blind spot monitoring, also pretty helpful. Cameras, helpful for parking. Now, we're going to go for a drive. I'm going to tell you about my tale taking this on a road trip. So when I first picked up the Nexo, I was excited and curious about it. You know, I had driven the Mirai, but only around Los Angeles, and I found it to be a really comfortable car to drive. And this was another one in the space. So the plan was myself, my girlfriend, and our dog were going to take a road trip from LA to Santa Cruz, visit my parents, and then drive back down. And of course, I looked at the map of hydrogen pumps on the way, and actually for the whole state of California, which is the only state you can buy this car in. And there were a ton of dots indicating hydrogen pumps in Los Angeles, a ton in the Bay Area, and one in between. On Highway 5, there is literally one. It's at the Harris Ranch Hotel and Gas Pavilion in Coalinga, California. But the Limited has a range of 354 miles, which is about 25 miles shorter than the base Nexo. And I figured, okay, well, if I fill up in Santa Monica, stop at Coalinga, I'll have no problem making it to Santa Cruz. Now, there are no hydrogen stations in Santa Cruz, so what I was going to have to do is then drive over to San Jose before heading back down to Los Angeles. This was the first time I had range anxiety, but I looked at the map, I did the math, I believe in math, so I thought this will be fine. And Matt even said on the podcast,
Cruise show
We're back
when
in
Zach
town.
gets back, assuming the hydrogen car doesn't leave him stranded on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he ran out of H2.
But I was confident. And when I got in the car, I really like it. I think the seats are really comfortable. The materials feel expensive. I mean, even just this little cubby opens and closes silently. It has a little rubberized spring. The action of all of these buttons, which are so numerous, it's like there's a piano up here, are all really nice. Everything you touch and interact with feels more upscale than you expect from Hyundai. They've been doing this for a long time, where they over-deliver in terms of feel, fit, and finish, and it's just continuing here. Yes, it's an expensive car, but I was really impressed with how everything feels. Just the vent controls. There's like a damping, a rubber involved in that plastic system, in that mechanism, that makes it feel super smooth and quiet to operate. Everything in here is like that. The ride is pretty quiet. Above 80 miles an hour, you do get a little bit of wind noise. The seats are very adjustable. They're heated. They're cooled. I got a heated steering wheel. I just ran over a squirrel that ran under a car, and this car is trying to be green and save the planet. And by the way, on the drive up here, I hit a bird. So, amazing. Oh, amazing. So I set off on the trip, and I filled up with hydrogen in Santa Monica, drove up towards Coalinga, got there, and then everything went a bit wrong. Over the course of about 40 minutes, I spent 40 minutes on the phone with tech support for the True Zero hydrogen pump there. The person on the phone was very receptive, and the problem was that the pump kept saying unavailable, and they would reset it, and then I would plug it in and pump, and it would only give me $1 or maybe 50 cents worth of hydrogen. And I did this 5 times, and after the 5th time, the person on the phone just said, something's wrong with the pump. We're gonna have to send a tech out there. So I am now in the middle of the California Central Valley, and I'm looking at my hydrogen going up $1 at a time, and I'm starting to get worried. And I had got enough fuel that I was gonna be able to make it to Santa Cruz, and then as long as I didn't drive the car that weekend, I could make it to San Jose to fuel up before heading back down south. But it was now 9 p.m. at night. I had spent about an hour at this fuel station trying to solve this problem. Our schedule's being shifted back. Not gonna have dinner with my parents anymore, etc., etc. This is a really big inconvenience, and the person on the phone didn't know what the problem was, and this was the only pump. There's one pump in Coalinga. So then, weekend goes by, we don't drive the car. Sunday comes around, drive over to San Jose, and go to the True Zero pump over there. There are 4 in the immediate area. I went to the closest one. And that's where I ran into more problems. Hi everybody, this will be the first one take or portion of a one take filmed at a gas station. And there's a reason for that. As you know, I'm in the Hyundai Nexo, which runs on hydrogen, and it has not been a very easy car to take on a road trip. The person in front of me is in a Mirai, Toyota Mirai, and they're waiting for a while. 10 minutes goes by, they haven't done anything, they're sitting in their car. So I say, can I help you? What's going on? And she said, oh, the machine has to reset. So I call tech support, and they confirm, yes, the machine has to reset because this, which is a True Zero hydrogen station, I've used others, this is the worst so far, we'll get to that in a moment, acts like a balloon. Inside is a giant tank that the compressor fills with hydrogen, and then when you plug your car in, it dumps that hydrogen into your car. And it has to fill after a fill up. So it's not like a gas tank or a pump where it's pumping from a large tank down below and it just flows freely. A tank fills a tank that fills a tank. So she waits, we wait 10 minutes, the thing resets, and then it disengages for her once, she has to redo it, it fills okay. And then I get up there and try to fill my tank, and it only fills us halfway. And I call tech support again and I say, what's going on? And their explanation was, not only do you have to wait for the tank to refill to where the screen goes from unavailable to welcome, you then have to wait an additional 10 minutes for the tank to fill completely before it will fill your tank. The problem is there's nothing on the screen that's telling you any of this information. It just says unavailable or welcome. So you see welcome and you think, this is ready. This is ready to put fuel in my car, just like those gas tanks over there do. But it's not. There's another secret agenda, a secret tank you're waiting for, a secret process. So had I had 20 free minutes to sit around and no one waiting behind me, which I did, then I could have waited for that magical tank underground to fill up and then filled our hydrogen tank completely. But because I had someone waiting, once it disengaged from me, I wanted to be a nice person, got out of the way and let them fill up their car. And now we're sitting here in a parking lot waiting for them to finish and the car behind them to finish so that we can go try to fill our hydrogen tank again so we have enough range just to get to the station in the middle of Central Valley in Coalinga. I think I've actually been too hard on True Zero. I think what they're doing is they're making us all slow down and appreciate life a bit. I think we're all bustling and hustling and we don't build in time for ourselves.
Dad, let's go!
And so, they want you to stop and smell the gas station.
We have been here an hour
They want you to
and a
smell the
half.
Monster Energy can, that coffee, this lavender. Because if you were filling up with gas, you'd already be home. You'd been home hours ago.
We should have been home an hour ago.
We're trying to save the planet. But, that's what they're doing. So thank you, True Zero. Thank you for giving me time for me. I talked to a friend of mine who is a petroleum engineer, works in natural gas, said, what is up with this? He said, well, it's probably a safety issue. If they had one giant tank of hydrogen that held 100 cars worth of hydrogen going all the way, going just into your car, if there was an issue, that's a ton of pressure and you could have a big problem. And then it got worse. When I left San Jose, I talked to True Zero and I said, how much hydrogen is in Coalinga? Should I go that way? Gentleman on the phone said, yes, it's online. It has fuel. That's where you should go. I said, okay, because that was my option. When I got there, it was empty. Now, to his credit, when he looked at the status of that pump when I set off from Campbell, it did have hydrogen in it. But he said 40 to 50 cars came through between the time I spoke to him and I got there, which was 2 hours, and depleted the tank. And they have no way of predicting how many cars are on the road, how many people are going to stop by. What it means, though, is they need to put more tanks and pumps in that location because this is literally the only place between two major areas where you can fuel up. Walked around a little bit, was looking for a car that could maybe flat tow us down to Los Angeles. We ended up having to stay the night in Harris Ranch in their hotel and wait for a hydrogen delivery truck to show up the next day at noon. Update. The hydrogen truck arrived just about right on time, just after noon, as we were told it would. And it is now 1:26 p.m. in the first car in line, just finished fueling. So we're up, not next, but after that one.
All right. 40 years later, we're about to get hydrogen. Had a nice stay at Harris Ranch. Enjoyed their overpriced steaks and breakfast. Got a job working on the farm, butchering cattle. We had a couple of kids, and they had kids. Pretty soon we get ready to go home, and we're going to do the Smoking Tire podcast. Are those still a thing?
Now, on the drive, the car is really quiet. The car is really comfortable. I love the adjustability. Could use a tiny bit more lumbar. As I've said, I have a weird back issue, so that might just be me. It doesn't really do much. But the seats are comfortable. The foam is nice. There's tons of storage in the car, well, in the center console. Could use more cup holders on the left side. It's got this one and the clever one that pops out of the dash, kind of like Porsche did, which I like. And there's this storage cubby down here, which is handy for devices. There's some USB ports and stuff. You can put pens or a notebook down there. I have breakfast down there right now. The back seat is spacious. It has this car has more interior room than the Mirai or the Clarity, which are larger cars. And interior space is something that can be challenging with a hydrogen car because the fuel cell, the battery pack, all of that equipment takes up space. It takes up more room than a simple gasoline car does. And they've done a good job in this. They've done a good job. So what I took away from this whole trip is that I'm not sure who this car is for. Now, hydrogen is theoretically a very clean technology. The only emissions from this car is water. And that's a thing you'll hear all over the place. But how hydrogen is made is not always a clean process. Some of it is made from natural gas, and the way it's made, what they call well-to-wheel, or the amount of carbon produced from where it's extracted to where it goes into your car and propels you down the road, can be dirtier than gasoline. 33% of the hydrogen made in California is required to be made from renewable technology. That's good. If they can use solar to extract hydrogen from water, then put it in cars, okay, now we're in business. Now we're operating a really clean system that theoretically gives you a car that is as quick to refuel as a gasoline one, unlike an EV, which you have to plug in and charge slowly. But, there's a lot of cars out there these days that get 40 miles per gallon, have as much space as this, etc., etc. The other thing is, yes, EVs have had this infrastructure problem and still do to some degree in some places, but there's an electrical outlet pretty much everywhere. Right now, I'm on the top of a mountain and I'm looking at power lines. If I was up here in an EV, I could probably break into one of those boxes if I had to and plug into a 110 or a 240 outlet. Your house has electricity. Electricity is basically everywhere nowadays. In the middle of California, I was SOL. I was stuck. I had to wait for a delivery truck. Another lesson, not all of these icons mean a station is open. The first time you go to this map, the default filter is to be showing all of these, including retail proposed, in permitting, or even unavailable. But if you uncheck those and only want to show stations that are open currently, there are far fewer. There are still a lot in these cities, but there are far fewer than you first think. If we do the same thing in Northern California, you'll see that there are only 4 here. And when I was up there, only one of these was showing up on the Nexo's navigation as being online. The other 4 in the immediate area were closed or offline or just had a question mark. You can be an early adopter right now, but I don't know why you would, because this is a $62,000 car that has the same interior space as the Hyundai Tucson, which starts at $30,000. It doesn't offer anything really different in how you move down the road, how it feels, etc., etc. Feels like an EV. You can buy an EV. Gas cars are so quiet these days with some of the engines, you wouldn't really notice too much if you swap the powertrains. It's slow, so you don't gain the acceleration and power you get from an electric powertrain, but it doesn't have the convenience of gasoline, really, because the infrastructure is still so new and still developing. So yeah, in 5 years, maybe all those stations will be built, but to buy this car now, I don't know why you would do it, or the Mirai, or the Clarity. Well, the GoPro powered down, as it's been known to do when it gets warm out. But that was basically the end. So thank you guys for watching. This has been a really educational experience for me, and I'm very happy I had it because I know more about the technology and the pumping system and how it all works. But for right now, I think you're better off buying a plug-in hybrid, an EV, or just a really efficient gas car. See you later.
And remember, always fight your tickets. Use code TST10 on the Off the Record app available in the Android and iOS store, or go to offtherecord.com/TST.